You do everything right, or at least everything you have always been told is right. You wake up early, you eat clean, you exercise, you take your vitamins. And yet, somewhere after 43, your body started behaving like it belongs to someone else. The weight shifted to your midsection. Your sleep fractured into pieces. Your energy vanished by mid-afternoon. Your mood became something you could no longer predict. You have blamed stress, you have blamed age, you have blamed yourself. But what if the real problem is not what you are failing to do, but what you are doing every single day that is quietly wrecking the hormonal balance your body desperately needs right now? There are 7 habits that most women over 43 practice daily without any idea that each one is actively interfering with the hormones that regulate weight, sleep, mood, and energy. These are not dramatic bad habits. They are not junk food binges or all-night screen sessions. They are ordinary, socially accepted behaviors that were perfectly fine at 30 but become quietly destructive once the hormonal landscape begins to shift. And the reason nobody connects these habits to hormonal damage is simple. The effects are not immediate. They accumulate slowly, week after week, until one day everything feels wrong and there is no obvious explanation. The most common one is skipping meals to lose weight, especially breakfast. At 30, skipping a meal meant burning a few extra calories. After 43, skipping meals triggers a cortisol response. Cortisol is the body's stress hormone, and when it rises, it sends a direct signal to store fat around the midsection. It also competes with progesterone, one of the hormones already declining rapidly during this phase. Low progesterone is linked to anxiety, poor sleep, and that constant feeling of being on edge. So the strategy that feels like discipline is actually creating a hormonal environment that makes weight loss harder and anxiety worse. If you have been restricting food and watching your belly grow, this is the mechanism behind it. The fix is not eating more in general. It is eating enough at consistent intervals to keep cortisol from spiking. A protein-rich breakfast within an hour of waking, even something small like 2 eggs or a handful of almonds with full-fat yogurt, sends a signal to the adrenal glands that the body is not under threat. Cortisol settles, progesterone gets more room to operate, and the belly, over time, begins to respond to the hormonal environment it was always meant to have. But there is another habit that runs even deeper, and most women have no idea it is doing damage. Intense cardio, the kind that feels like you are earning your results, is one of the worst hormonal disruptors after 43. Long runs, high-intensity interval training, spin classes that leave you drenched in sweat. At 25, this kind of exercise boosted metabolism and burned fat efficiently. After 43, it floods the body with cortisol, and cortisol does not just store fat. It actively breaks down muscle tissue for energy, which lowers your resting metabolic rate, which means you burn fewer calories even at rest. The women in this age range who maintain the leanest, strongest bodies are not the ones doing the most cardio. They are the ones lifting weights 3 to 4 times a week and walking daily. Resistance training preserves muscle, supports bone density, and triggers a hormonal response that cardio simply cannot match during this phase. Even 2 to 3 sessions per week of moderate weightlifting, using dumbbells, resistance bands, or bodyweight exercises like squats and push-ups, sends a signal to the endocrine system to prioritize testosterone and growth hormone production. These are the hormones that build lean tissue, support metabolism, and help the body release stored fat. If you love cardio, you do not have to abandon it entirely. But shifting the balance so that strength training is the foundation and walking is the daily movement, with intense cardio limited to once or twice a week at most, will produce dramatically different hormonal results than what most women are currently doing. The third habit is the one that probably feels the most harmless, and it is the reason the title of this video told you to pay attention to number 3. It is drinking coffee on an empty stomach first thing in the morning. Almost everyone does it, but on an empty stomach, coffee triggers a spike in cortisol at the exact time of day when cortisol is already at its natural peak. The result is a double cortisol surge that crashes by mid-morning, leaving you exhausted, craving sugar, and reaching for more caffeine to compensate. Over weeks and months, this cycle desensitizes the adrenal glands and disrupts the natural cortisol rhythm that governs your energy throughout the day. The fix is not giving up coffee, It is eating something, even a handful of nuts or a boiled egg, before that first cup, and ideally waiting until 90 minutes after waking to drink it, when cortisol has already begun its natural decline. Then there is the habit of eating dinner late, often after 8 or 9 p.m. When food enters the body late at night, insulin remains elevated through the early hours of sleep. Elevated insulin suppresses growth hormone, which is the body's most powerful, natural, fat-burning and tissue repair signal during sleep. Growth hormone peaks during the first 90 minutes of deep sleep, but only when insulin is low. Eating dinner 3 hours before bed and keeping it moderate in carbohydrates allows insulin to drop in time for the body to enter its overnight repair cycle. This single shift in timing, not in what you eat, but when you eat, can noticeably change how you feel when you wake up within the first week. Women who move dinner earlier consistently report waking up with less puffiness, a flatter stomach, and more natural energy in the first hour of the day. The reason is straightforward. The body was finally able to complete its overnight repair cycle without insulin blocking the process. It is one of the simplest changes on this list and one of the most immediately noticeable. There is also a habit that seems like responsible health behavior, but can backfire dramatically after 43, relying on low-fat or fat-free foods. For decades, women were told that fat makes you fat. But after 43, dietary fat is not the enemy. It is the raw material the body needs to produce hormones. Cholesterol, which comes from dietary fat, is literally the precursor molecule for estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone. When fat intake drops too low, the body does not have the building blocks to manufacture the hormones it is already struggling to produce. Healthy fats from avocados, olive oil, nuts, seeds, and fatty fish are not indulgences at this stage. They are biological necessities. Removing them from the diet in the name of weight loss can accelerate the very hormonal decline that is causing the weight gain in the first place. A practical target is at least 2 to 3 servings of healthy fats daily. A tablespoon of olive oil on a salad, a quarter of an avocado with lunch, a handful of walnuts as a snack. These are not extras. They are the raw inputs your endocrine system is running on, and cutting them starves the production line at the worst possible time. Another habit that flies completely under the radar is chronic undersleeping, not because of insomnia, but because of choice. Staying up late, to have quiet time after the household goes to sleep, scrolling through a phone in bed, watching one more episode. At 30, sleeping 6 hours felt manageable. After 43, anything under 7 hours consistently disrupts the production of leptin, the hormone that tells the body it is full, and increases ghrelin, the hormone that drives hunger. This is why poor sleep leads to cravings, particularly for sugar and refined carbohydrates. It also reduces insulin sensitivity, meaning the body processes sugar less efficiently, which drives more fat storage. Sleep is not a luxury during this phase. It is the single most important hormonal intervention available, and it costs nothing. If getting 7 to 8 hours means turning off the television an hour earlier and putting your phone in another room, the trade is worth it. The hormonal repair that happens during deep sleep, including the growth hormone surge that mobilizes fat and regenerates tissue, cannot be achieved any other way. No supplement, no diet, and no workout can substitute for what the body does during those hours. Protecting sleep after 43 is not self-indulgence. It is the highest leverage health decision available. The last habit is one that most women would never associate with hormonal disruption: using products loaded with synthetic fragrances and chemicals that mimic estrogen. They are called xenoestrogens, and they are found in conventional body lotions, shampoos, cleaning products, scented candles, and plastic food containers. Xenoestrogens bind to estrogen receptors in the body and send false signals that confuse the endocrine system. In a body where estrogen is already fluctuating unpredictably, adding external compounds that act like estrogen can amplify symptoms like bloating, breast tenderness, mood swings, and weight gain around the hips and thighs. Switching to fragrance-free personal care products, storing food in glass instead of plastic, and avoiding heating food in plastic containers are small changes that remove a constant source of hormonal interference that most women never even consider. The most impactful swaps are the products that stay on your skin the longest: body lotion, deodorant, and anything you apply to your face before bed. These sit on the skin for hours, and their chemical contents absorb steadily into the bloodstream throughout the day or night. Choosing products labeled fragrance-free rather than unscented is an important distinction because unscented products often contain masking fragrances that are just as disruptive as the ones you can smell. Reading ingredient lists for parabens, phthalates, and synthetic musks takes 30 seconds and can meaningfully reduce your daily xenoestrogen exposure. None of these habits feel dangerous on their own. That is precisely what makes them so effective at accumulating damage over time. A skipped breakfast here, a late dinner there, a few nights of short sleep, a morning coffee on an empty stomach. Individually, they are invisible. Together, over months and years, they create a hormonal environment where the body cannot regulate weight, sleep, mood, or energy, no matter how hard you try. The good news is that each one is reversible. You do not need to overhaul your entire life overnight. Start with the one that resonated most, the one that made you think, that is exactly what I do. Change that one thing for 2 weeks and pay attention to what shifts. Your body has been trying to tell you something for a while now. These 7 habits were drowning out the signal. Remove them, and the signal gets clear again.